Hello, my students. This is Earl again for week 6 CBT. Now, last week you encountered Fritz Perls, got to see him with Gloria and then with Mary Kay, two very similar and yet very different sessions. And then you met Irv Polster, who was 20, 30 years later, and you get to see an updating, and you were asked to take all of these and connect them to yourself and you as a healer. This week, we're going on to CBT, to cognitive behavior therapy, probably the predominant mainstream theory now in the field, though it's changing. You're going to start with the third session with Gloria, Albert Ellis, who was really the founder of CBT, though he called it REBT. And then you're going to see another session of a later series of 3 approaches to psychotherapy. This took place 10 years after the first session with Richard, Donald Meichenbaum, one of the most famous still CBT therapists, working with Richard, who's also a very interesting client. And as I said in my trigger warning, you'll see him being interviewed by Meichenbaum, and Meichenbaum finding that he has a suicide plan, which is powerful both in terms of hanging in there, like Jansen said in his article, and how you do an assessment in that kind of place, and what kind of feelings it brings up in you. But you'll also get to see how CBT has then gone to the next phase of the incorporation of Rogerian with Ellis. I say he's the son of Rogers and Ellis. Then you'll have a short clip by Marshall Linehan, who takes Zen and mindfulness and incorporates it into what she calls DBT, dialectical behavior therapy, the dialectic being the serenity prayer. Serenity to accept the things you cannot change, the courage to change the things you can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So those 2 polarities. You've got your Corey readings, and you've got 2 interesting articles. One of the best ones I've found from Psychotherapy Networker, which is one of my favorite journals, on 10 best approaches to treatment of anxiety, where you get to see CBT approaches both in terms of the basic ones and desensitization, and in terms of what I call the higher level ones, which is mindfulness. And Chris Germer's article on You Gotta Have Heart, in which we see the next evolvement of CBT to mindfulness, which is very interesting because what you're doing is taking a cognitive approach which tries to transcend cognition. Mindfulness is kind of bringing back into the field that notion of caring, compassion, and what do you do with the things you can't change? Back to the serenity prayer, right? So I hope you enjoy this week. It comes at a time that developmentally, in the 6th week, you are just where you should be, which is you're each involved in your own way of connecting this material to who you are as a healer, and how it impacts you. So keep that in the forefront and doing your wiki in terms of your reflections and your questions, and in terms of your voice thread where you're presenting who you are now, which is going very well. You take care. Have a good week.